It's not rude.
I'm tired today, but I'm also like filled with joy at the fact that spring is here.
Yes. Are we going?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Always be recording. This is a
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
That's a trick that I learned from one of the podcasts that I listen to. Is that you
Always
should be recording.
recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you never know what you can capture.
Yeah.
But anyways, yes, spring.
Yeah, spring. So the spring is something we didn't understand, or I feel like I didn't understand when I lived in Florida, which was basically my whole life up until 20, because we never really had winter.
Right.
I mean, it got cooler and then it got warmer for sure. But when it started to get a little warmer, I almost was kind of bummed when it was starting to get hot again.
Totally, because it meant we were going to be plunged into the pits of hell.
Yeah.
For the next several months.
Yeah.
Of summer. You know what I mean?
Totally. No. Yeah. So, but here, like in Tennessee, it's totally the opposite, where spring is just this incredible reprieve. And again, this is like something that obviously people have been celebrating spring for as long as there have been people, I'm sure. But for me, I it's still, because I didn't grow up in it, it's still, in a place with seasons, it still strikes me. Every time spring rolls around, I'm like, wow.
I know.
The birds are chirping, the sun is shining, flowers are just starting to bloom. It's just like, oh, it's amazing.
All those things that you just don't even realize you've been missing until they start back up again. Like for me, the birds chirping is a big one that I didn't even realize until now. We've been opening like our back patio door every morning and I just hear them chirp, chirp, chirping.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the little things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like new life. That's the feeling I get. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which brings with it good things and bad. Like when I hear birds chirping, I go, oh, I'm glad they're chirping, but unfortunately means they're going to be crapping all over everything in the backyard. You leave something out for 2 seconds and a bird poops on it. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, I know. You have a war with the birds. Let's just be honest.
How many times have you been pooped on by a bird?
Actually, a couple times in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple times. But isn't it supposed to mean like good luck?
I mean, I think
that's what I've been told.
Yeah, but like by a bird?
Also, I was never pooped on by a bird until I married you. So what's that supposed to mean?
I think if we're trying to find a correlation, we'll find one, but I don't think,
good luck,
maybe
good vibes. I don't know.
Yeah. Remember that time?
Oh my gosh.
In the Bahamas,
the cruise,
you
the
got
infamous
hit
cruise.
3 times.
Yes.
In 2 days. You got hit 3 times in 2 days.
Yeah.
And one of them we both got hit. The other ones it was just you. I got hit one time in San Diego, on a balcony that I remember clearly. But it can ruin your day.
I mean, for sure, it ruins your day. Are you kidding me?
No, but I have seen people handle it really well. They'll be like, "Oh man," like they wipe it off with a towel, not with their hand, but like they wipe it off.
Birds have like disease,
right? No, for me, it's like whatever I'm doing that day. It's like, hey, I'm so sorry that I know we had
we're shutting it down.
all this planned, but something has just occurred that there's no
irredeemable.
Yeah, I have to not.
Yeah.
There will be a shower happening. So.
And a deep cleaning session with my washing machine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, it's actually normally happened to me on the road. So that's even worse. I'm like, anyway, birds, because spring, and with spring
but I do
comes
love
all
birds.
these.
I mean, I don't want to hate on birds because they do good things for us,
Sure. Well, I don't think any of them are listening to this. So we don't need to make peace with them.
But
true. I hear you though. They do contribute to the world.
Yes.
Anyway, so it is spring.
It's spring.
It is beautiful in Nashville right now, which is a reason to just be happy. And,
and just feeling like you survived the winter. That's the general feeling I have of wow, I survived it this year. It feels like an accomplishment, even though I haven't done anything. It's just sometimes the seasons feel like you're surviving it. You know what I mean?
Totally. So, and today we're talking about winter bloom.
Yeah.
So it's, appropriate with
apropos.
Yeah, with the vibe of spring that's in the air right now. And
Yeah.
it is funny because, like, again, when you live in a place where the winter sucks and spring is a very welcome guest, like everybody is in on it. Like
Yeah.
it's the topic of every conversation that you hear
It's
as you're
true.
walking through the grocery store or like at the gym or whatever. People are talking about the
Yep.
weather, talking about their plans for the weekend. Like people are excited to just be able to just sort of stretch out, get out of the house.
Yeah.
So it is like there is a real like that story of like, death and new life and
Yeah.
it's like it's woven into the seasons and into how we live our lives, and everybody
Yeah.
is feeling that excitement, so it brings
Yeah, it's
with it
real.
like this whole exciting thing in town, which is nice.
Yeah. It's amazing. What a gift. I mean, the seasons really are a gift. And I mean, I think, again, because we grew up in Florida, even the winter, thinking about the season of winter, like, I don't think I knew how hard it could be, really.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes the movies kind of glorify it or make it seem like this really cool thing and romantic thing to be like snowed in and have a fireplace going. And, we don't have snow in Nashville. All the trees are dead. Most of the time there's clouds in the sky because we're kind of in a valley. It gets dark at 4:30. Like, it is not romantic at all. It's not. Maybe for like a week. Okay. Maybe for a week,
Yeah.
It feels like cozy vibes. You're like into it. But then automatically it's like this wall of, at least for me, it's like a wall of like death and despair, kind of. I hate to be dramatic about it, but that's what winter kind of feels like to me.
Yeah. I'd imagine, like, I liken it to like thinking you're cozying up for like a nice sleep and then realizing you're in a coffin and they put it underground. You're like, oh, I don't want to be in here forever. You know what I mean? I still have life to live.
Yeah.
Like, because some people, and I would be one of them, I think, when fall first comes, and especially like later fall when it's getting into winter and it's the holidays and all that kind of thing, that's where the snow is nice, the fireplace, that whole deal is very romantic, and there is something nice about cozying up with a bowl of soup or like a mug of hot chocolate or whatever. But after a while, it does get old.
Just gets old.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not even just get old. It's like it starts to just not be what you need anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think there's nothing more natural than that.
Yeah.
And by the way, not to like hard segue into the topic for today, but I think that's probably true of the seasons that we have in life as well. Like, there are times when a season is a very welcome change of pace, but there are seasons for a reason, because like we're supposed to go through, like honestly, I have had winter seasons, like in life, winter in quotes. Like I've had like, maybe difficult seasons or whatever, where in the beginning I almost kind of welcomed it. Maybe I felt a little betrayed, or I felt burned out, or whatever, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna focus on something different now. I'm gonna, like, you switch things up, or you're like, I'm gonna take a break, or whatever. But then after a while you go, okay, well, I don't want to like live in that place forever. Do you know what I mean? Like I've talked to friends who they sort of feel like they thrive if they feel overlooked, or if they feel and it kind of
like an underdog or
like
something.
an underdog, and it kind of motivates them. But eventually at some point, like you do want to not always be count out, or something like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of thinking about it, and just thinking about in relation to what it looks like in your life. I was looking at the lyrics of this song, and one of the ones that really stood out to me was at the end of the bridge. I think it says something like, oh my gosh, this is my own song, I should know the lyric by heart, but this end is not the ending. I've always loved that line. And that's kind of happened to me several times in my own life, where a season ends and I wasn't expecting it, or I don't know how to navigate it, or it feels like this end of a season, of a relationship, of a part of my career. I don't know what's after that, right? Like even with the seasons, like what's nice about them is that you know that spring is coming next, and then after that is summer and all of what comes with that. But when it comes to like life seasons, it's a little bit more confusing because it's not like a pattern like that you can fall into.
Yeah.
And so for me, like when I think about endings in my own life, one that comes to mind in particular is several years ago before I recorded my third album, Bloom. And I was in this time of like just ending a relationship with a publisher, a Catholic publisher, OCP. Shout out to OCP people. They're wonderful. It just wasn't right for me at the time. And I knew that I wanted to go in a different direction. So I left my publisher and then stopped working with a producer that had done my previous 2 albums, and was kind of like in this, we had just moved to Atlanta. We had just left Florida, was kind of in this state of like all of these endings happening at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was forced to be like, what is next? Like, is my career ending before it's barely even started? Like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really, rough time, to be honest. It was several months of like kind of feeling like a winter, kind of feeling like I had no idea what was next. Mm. But if that had never happened, I wouldn't have been forced to kind of start taking more of agency in my career. Like I don't think I would have really stepped into who I am as an artist today if that hadn't happened, because I was kind of forced to think about things in a different way and kind of forced to make decisions about what direction I wanted to take next, and kind of take a risk as opposed to like somebody else tell me what to do. Somebody else tell me what I should sound like. Somebody else tell me what songs I should write, because I don't feel confidence in this space. And it was a real turning point for me now when I look back on that, as far as like just taking the next step and owning who I am. And so I don't know, I guess I just say that to say like, when things look like the end, it's just like God to make it into a new beginning,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's really, I mean, when we think about the season of Lent and Easter and the Paschal mystery, it just, to me, that's the hope of that. That's how it relates to my actual life,
right?
Is these experiences of like recognizing when I feel like, or when it looks like this thing is ending, to kind of have the wherewithal or the forethought, maybe not the forethought, but like the wherewithal to remind myself, but God is at work. I know He's at work.
Yeah.
And who knows what spring is coming.
Right. So
and what's next?
It might be an end, but it's not the end.
Right.
You know? So it's just it's like having a loose enough grasp on everything that you are both ready to receive what's new and also to let go of what you have previously held on to. You know, to have a loose enough grasp, because there, like, things do end. That's like, I think the first time you start to the first couple of times you start to realize things do end, it's a little bit jarring, because you might get into like a professional relationship, for example, or a situation where you go like, oh, I guess this is a great fit. I guess this is just going to be like what I do for the rest of my career. I guess I'm going to retire here or whatever. But it's like, know, if you're on a 4-person team and one person moves and the other person, changes jobs and or whatever, it's just, there can be any number of things that change, and you realize, oh shoot, like I guess that was just a season. And it can be crushing when you're like, this, I don't know what to make of this. I've spent 3 years or whatever doing this thing or working with this person or pursuing this project or whatever that I loved, and it ended. And I don't know where to go from there, And the first couple of times that happens, and
hard.
you're not expecting it and you don't know how to deal with it,
Yeah.
it's rough. I mean, it's probably always rough, but I mean, at least at a certain point you get comfortable with the idea that that's how this goes, you know? I mean, even I just think about our, you know, my career, like speaking.
Yeah.
There have been events that I did every year for a few years, and then the event organizer changed, or for whatever reason, I just didn't go back, or they wanted to switch it up. And I would go, oh wow, like I got so used to going to this city on this weekend almost every year, it like became a part of my routine, and now I don't do it anymore, or whatever, or even just different, you know, band members we've played with. People come in, we have a great time, and then people get pulled away in other directions for all different types of reasons. So yeah, you kind of do get, I don't want to say you get used to it, but it can get a little easier. But the first couple times it happens, especially early on in your career, you're like, like you said, like, is it over before it even began? Like that's a pretty heavy thought to wrestle with, you know?
Yeah. That, what you just said though, really challenged me, because I definitely am a person who, when I have like an amazing experience, like for example, even with recording this album, like the producers that I worked with, I had an amazing experience with each of them. And I felt myself be like, this is it. This is who I'm working with from now on. Like, this is just going to happen, you know, because it's flowing. And maybe I will work with those people, you know, for a couple projects to come. But like, I guess to me, it's like a challenge to never get comfortable, and to also like, we can't control the future. Again, we've said this on this podcast so many times, but it's something that I need to remember. We can't control the future. We can only control this moment. And I've had enough experiences in my life where I thought something was not going to end, and then it did, to realize like, don't miss out on the moment that you're in right now. Like, don't try to like figure this out for what's next and how this translates to years from now or whatever. Just like live into this moment right now and enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Because you never know if the next season that you enter into is going to be a winter. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't know. Like we could be living in springtime right now in abundance, and it's amazing. And then the next month something happens, God forbid, because life is that way. A diagnosis, a family member passes, a whatever, a relationship dies. I mean, I'm not going to name all the things. We know the things that cause us strife in life, you know, but it's so easy to kind of like take that for granted, that it's always going to be good when you're in the good. I mean, or vice versa.
Talking about early 2020, we were in an absolute springtime. I mean, I've talked about this with friends a lot. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it here, but you know, we just happened to have so much momentum. There were a couple of really, not that the size of the event matters, but just to preface that, but you know, we had done a couple of really big events that were, you know, tons of exposure, and really, they went really well. We got great opportunities to do the kind of work we've been wanting to do, both as a band and you as an artist, and then me as a speaker. We were both doing like, we were getting brought in we were being trusted with really, you know, high profile events. We were working with great teams of people, and things were starting to click in a way that was just like, it felt rewarding after grinding for so long, you know? And then, you know, right in that season, I mean, I can think we had like 3, 4, 5 amazing gigs in a row, and then COVID and everything shut down, you know? And
our calendar wiped out in the span of a day, literally.
Yeah. So like, I would have never believed you. First of all, I didn't even necessarily appreciate the springtime we were in.
No.
And I wouldn't have believed you if you said you're about to have a year of forced time off, you know, wouldn't even have known what to do with that. And probably like so many other people, our lives completely changed in COVID. Yeah. Like I have, you know,
I became a whole other person.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, totally. Literally.
Yes, literally. A change. I mean, I do different things for work. I do different things for fun. It's like everything changed. It's just crazy. Well, I still golf. I mean, I'm still the same person. I don't want to be over dramatic, but it really
I still
was.
Love the sun, and
it was not just like, okay, regroup for a little while and get back to it. It was like that in a lot of ways, I had to make peace with the fact that life, whatever it was, in some ways ended. Thankfully, like not everything ended. Like our marriage is still going. Many of our friendships are still going. Like the main thing we do for work is still going, but a lot of other things did kind of end. And there was a weird point where, remember, everybody's like, "Oh, it's going to be coming back." You know, it's going to be coming back. And then some things did come back, and some things didn't. Yeah. You know, so it's even just the openness there to be like, I'm just going to have to be okay with that. But
Winter Bloom. What else do we have to say about this?
Yeah.
Anything else you can think of?
Well, I know when I was just thinking about the song and listening to it, it's a very easy thing to talk about in spring, you know? So it's just interesting because I'm very aware that even for myself, there are areas where I need like an infusion of hope. And, you know, sometimes when all the leaves fall off, you're like, I don't know, are these going to come back? You know what I mean? Like, and you know, you can look to nature to be reminded that they will come back every year. But sometimes when things are barren, you're like, you know, and it's desolate, and you can be in a place where hope is not like obvious. It's not on your mind. Yeah. And I know that we've walked through seasons ourselves and had, you know, family and friends walk through seasons that have been difficult. And I think, you know, specifically about a couple of friends who just were in like the longest season of desolation. Yeah. You know, and thankfully, like the person I'm thinking of in particular, like they're in a much better place now. Like they, not heaven, but they're, you know, but they're like, yeah, like many different situations in their life that were, you know, unresolved and seemingly like unresolvable have resolved, at least to the point where like they can be grateful and they can smile and instead of cry, you know, and like there's just just when you see it, it's an incredible thing when you see hope restored, when you witness like a promise fulfilled, or you know, when you see it in somebody's life, especially when it was just like a really, really long time coming. It's a powerful reminder that like these things don't always happen in the time frame that we want, or even in the time frame that would make sense to us. Like something like the seasons every year, it's like, okay, well, we know like every like 2, 3, 4 months it's going to change or whatever. But sometimes like a season that you can be in lasts a lot longer than that. Yeah. And so it just makes me think like I just want to say it out loud for me, because I want to make sure that for me, I'm never taking that for granted. Like, yeah, like this is how it is. Sometimes they're tough, but it's all going to be okay. It's like sometimes that doesn't suffice. And when you're in a situation yourself, or when someone close to you maybe is in a situation that is really dire and dark and like some of these like religious platitudes, for example, like I know you and I have talked about this a bunch before, but some of these religious platitudes sometimes just don't work. Yeah. You know? So something like the clouds are going to part, or, you know, God makes all things new. like, well, that one is true for sure. Like I believe that, but it's just like, sometimes it doesn't help. And so I think,
sometimes it feels like, when someone says that to you in the midst of, when you're in the middle of a really hard season, like things like everything happens for a reason and God never gives you more than you can handle. You're like, well, this sure feels like it. Right. That's not helping me, you know? Right. And these things that were good for me at a time, right? When I was younger, I needed some of those things. I clung to some of those truths. Like it's not like they're all bad. It's like how you use them and how you navigate that. Like I think about a conversation that I had with a friend recently who's really walking through a really hard time. I can't imagine saying one of those things to her. It just would feel like I'm not listening to her and to her struggle that she's walking through and the heaviness of that, as opposed to what I just tried to do and what has worked for me in those times is when people just sit with me in it, bear witness to it, and don't turn away and aren't like, I can't handle this. And I'm uncomfortable by the fact that you're walking through this. It's making me uncomfortable because these platitudes that I have clung to in my own life aren't working in this scenario.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to navigate this right now. As opposed to that kind of an attitude and just trying to throw things at it and try to like, because we as human beings, we try to make patterns out of things and try to control things and try to find kind of a semblance, at least to me, I do that. Like I try to find kind of like the through line to make it make sense, as opposed to sometimes it does not make sense. And recognizing that that's just the reality, but that doesn't mean that God is not good. That doesn't mean that God's not at work. It doesn't mean that maybe he's preparing a new season eventually. But again, sometimes when you're in the midst of that like really dark place, really dark winter, that's not what you need to hear.
Right.
You just need someone to sit with you. So I want to say that too. Like if there's people that are listening to this that are in their own winters, like I feel for you. Like it's valid. It's real. What you're experiencing is real. And I also, I think just want to say something that helped me is, in the last couple of years in my own winter, even of faith, you know, the thing that helped me and that I clung to was the words that God spoke when he said, I am with you always. Actually, not God, Jesus, when he said, I am with you always, even until the end of the age, like clinging to that, even when you can't see it, even when you can't feel it, even when it feels like everything is coming to an end and unraveling around you, recognizing and remembering and reminding yourself, I am not alone. Sometimes that's all that you can cling to, you know?
Yes. And letting these like these deep and profound truths that we recognize and remember in our faith, letting them be like real and more than just platitudes is worth the effort, but also is like not easy. And I think sometimes, like, especially if you came up in like a youth group situation, you were encouraged to you were introduced to a certain way of thinking that at the time was probably like really helpful. But then when like there's always been things in youth group that I didn't get or didn't enjoy. Like, you remember ever being at a conference and the person on stage would be like, all right, we're going to get the chant going. We're going to, this side of the room, we love Jesus. Yes, we do. We love Jesus. How about you? And then the other side's like, we love Jesus. Yes, we do. How about you? And it's like going back and forth.
Yeah.
And that was always one of those times where I was like, what is happening? I was out. I was out. It's just like, I just always had this idea that like, this is not like literally Jesus is with us right now. And he's probably like, we should probably bring the volume down. You know what I mean? Like no one's comfortable right now. But you just get introduced to these things, and sometimes some of those platitudes can sneak their way into that type of thing where you just regurgitate it. You're not even really thinking about it. Yeah. You just kind of regurgitate it. And I can just to close that thought with like a personal example. I remember recognizing that the platitudes weren't working for somebody in my life who was really suffering. Well, it's not a secret. It was my dad before he passed. He was in a really tough spot. And I remember recognizing that my platitudes that I had learned, and they weren't working on him. And because it wasn't working on him, it really freaked me out and it scared me. And it actually made me kind of avoid him and avoid his suffering, because I didn't have a quick fix for it. And I realized like, oh my gosh, like these platitudes aren't working for him, which means they don't work.
Or maybe they won't work for me.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just this like, I just remember being in that place of having all that kind of come crashing down around me. And it's really not about me, because in that situation, I should have been more focused on my dad and on who he was as a person and what he was going through. And that's just something I just have to deal with. But I do remember thinking, okay, so if these are not just like an easy, quick fix, then like what really is going on here? Like, and I started to try to grapple with the idea of suffering and being in this winter and being able to believe and being able to at least say, like, I believe this winter will bloom. I believe I believe life will come back, even though I don't see it right now. And that's a really difficult like thing to do, and it's a difficult place to get to, but I do feel like it's worth it. And I do feel like it's worth trying and speaking that truth, and just operating with a sense of optimism that it may not all get resolved the way I want it to. It won't probably, and it may not even get all resolved like this side of heaven, if you want to say it that way or whatever. Like, it's not that it's all going to work out perfectly. But it's also not that there's no reason for hope.
Right.
Like this is the wrestle in myself is like, I don't necessarily believe it's just all going to work out. It's all going to be good for everybody, but I also definitely believe in hope.
Yeah.
And I definitely believe in redemption and resurrection and new life. And so even sometimes in spite of the lack of evidence, I just have to trust and believe, because I've just seen God do it.
Right.
Right. But not, I have to be careful not to name like what I think that should look like, but just be, again, open-handed to receive what he wants to give me, to maybe let the waters wash out of my hands what doesn't need to be there anymore. Just that kind of openness. I think there's a sweet spot in there where I'm trying to figure out how to live.
Yeah.
That's not advice to anybody else really. I'm just saying for myself.
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot I'm trying to find, continually.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's an inherent mystery to suffering. It's like the age-old question, I feel like, that so many humans have wrestled with for so long, of like, why does suffering exist?
Yeah, right.
And what's the answer to that? And I read in a book recently, it said something like, sometimes the answers to life's biggest questions like are just a mystery, and we have to surrender to that and just like recognize that it's a mystery, and that's a part of faith. And we don't have an answer for suffering, but I can look at the suffering that I've walked through in my life and recognize the ways that God has redeemed it.
Right.
And made me that those sufferings, those things that I've walked through, I didn't choose it. I wouldn't have chosen it. But because God allowed it, it has made me, it's like a part of the garden of my life now. Mm-hmm. It's a part of like the soil that creates the fruit that is born in my life that wouldn't have been as rich without that. And I'm hesitant to even say that, because I know that there might be people who are listening to this who are in their own season of sufferings, and I'm trying to be really sensitive to that.
Of course, yeah.
Because it's not easy to hear when you're in the midst of suffering.
No,
it'll be good. It'll be all good. But truly, that's what the hope is for me, is that, yeah, there will be sufferings to come in our life. It's just life. It's being human. But I can, again, look back on those moments and recognize that it's all been a part of making me who I am today. And be grateful for it.
Yeah, totally. I think that's really well said.
And that's like the beautiful thing about God, is that he can make good out of really terrible, awful, crappy things.
Yeah.
He can. And I've seen him do it. And I think he will continue to do that.
Yeah. Yes, that's well said. And, I was thinking too, on a separate tone, sometimes there is, in my life, I should say, there has been suffering that I endured for a while before realizing it was self-inflicted. And so sometimes even that suffering is not always, but sometimes it's just like it's like a warning, like, hey, this isn't going to lead you good places, you know? So sometimes suffering has been a gift in that way as well, where I'm like, oh, okay, so I just got to stop doing X, Y, or Z and start doing this. And like, I can almost manifest a springtime just by, again, it doesn't always work that way, but I have seen in my life sometimes where like the suffering has been self-inflicted.
Dude,
you know,
prime example, Instagram for me.
Yeah.
The suffering that I endure from Instagram is self-inflicted, okay? The comparison trap and me just feeling FOMO or whatever, that's all self-inflicted.
Yeah.
It's so real. That's so real. And it's so annoying.
So, you know, I know we're using the word suffering, but let's just say you find yourself having like a bummer day, like just a down day. And then you identify like, oh, well, it's because I started my day with 20 minutes on Instagram. Tomorrow, let me not do that. And you can almost like introduce spring times into your life where there were winters, just in those little pockets where you just go like, I want to aim upward. I want to try to thrive. I want to be happy. I want to be content. I want peace in my relationships. I want good health. I want, you know, just like, and like starting to like choose to make the decisions that are going in the right direction, I guess. Sometimes that also kind of works too. Like, again, not that you can just like positive think your way out of suffering. That's not, but just, you know, it's just.
That's very real though.
Yeah. And like, sometimes that's how God makes the winter bloom, is by opening our eyes to something like that too. So anyway, it's a great song. I love it.
Yeah. It's an underdog. Well, underdog isn't the right word for it. It's like a, maybe underdog, a sleeper. That's a good way of putting it. It came out on the deluxe album.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes the deluxe songs don't get all the views or the love because they're like bonus tracks, you know what I mean? So we don't focus on them as much. But I really do feel like this song it's been a blessing to me to listen to it and sing to it. And I haven't sung it live yet, but maybe someday soon.
Yeah. Well, it has been a blessing to me too, and I hope it's been a blessing to a lot of other people. So thanks for writing it and putting it out there.
You're welcome.
And thanks for sitting with me today on this podcast to talk about it. Do we have anything else
I appreciate it.
To cover? No?
I think that's it. Yeah. Let's go have some chili con carne.
Okay. Everyone keep enjoying your March.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace.